About a week or so after the Super Bowl, I put out a video listing the 10 players I felt like I was going to have to draft as much as I possibly could in 2023 throughout all of my drafts. And while I think that list is a great list, and even still to this day is a great list, a lot of things have changed since then. We've had free agency, the NFL draft has just finished, so I wanted to go back, revisit the list, see which players I would keep on the list, which players I might take off the list, and which players I might now put on the list with all the new information we have. Now, real quick before I get into that, I need to remind you, if you are a new Dynasty player, if you're thinking about playing Dynasty, or if you're just a Dynasty player who wants to get better at Dynasty, you need to check out our Building Dynasties course. These are video courses that are going to help you crush your Dynasty startup draft and your rookie draft. They're super easy to digest. They won't take you long to get through it all, and you will learn so much amazing information, all the trial and error, all the mistakes Pierre and I have made over the 20 plus years we've been playing Dynasty. You don't have to worry about it. You're going to learn right away. Plus, we are going to do a special Endgame Dynasty League this year for anybody who signs up at flockfantasy.com/endgame. The first 10 people that sign up will get to participate in a Dynasty League with Pierre and myself. So if you've been thinking about it, if you've been thinking about a new league, this is your chance. Get in there. We're going to give away cash prizes, $100 to first, $50 a second, endgame swag, maybe to the whole league. We will see. Flockfantasy.com/endgame, 30% off any subscription. Get access to the courses. You're going to learn so much in such a short amount of time, plus all the other amazing stuff, including the Endgame League. Check it out. So let's start by looking back at my list last year, and let's start with the players I will keep in my list who I think are absolutely primed to smash this year. I'm not going to deep dive into them because I did that in the other video. If you want to, after this, you can go back and watch that if you haven't and see what I have to say about these players. But here's the players I'm keeping in my list. Number one, CeeDee Lamb. Still love CeeDee Lamb. Nothing has changed for CeeDee Lamb. I think he's a top 5 PPR wide receiver this year with legitimate top 1 upside. Number 2, J.K. Dobbins. I've talked about him a bunch this offseason. I think he's going to have a great season. The Ravens have loaded up that offense. Lamar Jackson coming back. J.K. Dobbins should be fully healthy, primed for a big year. Number 3, Christian Watson. I know Aaron Rodgers is gone. I talked about it in the video. I don't care. Jordan Love is good enough. They didn't do anything significant as far as wide receivers and pass catchers. They added a couple tight ends. They did add one wide receiver I like, but he's a good complement to Watson. I think Watson still smashes this year. Number 4, Justin Fields. They didn't quite get him the weapons I was hoping they'd get him yet. There's still some wide receivers out there they could trade for, but they did get DJ Moore. They did improve the offensive line. They did improve the defense. With that rushing upside, I think he's a top 5 QB this year. Number 5, Pat Freiermuth. Don't let the Darnell Washington draft pick scare you off Pat Freiermuth. He's more of a blocking tight end. Pat Freiermuth is going to be the pass catching, and this might even be good for him because now he can run more routes. He's going to catch a ton of passes this year. Still love the Muth. Number 6, another quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. All they've done is just improve this offense more and more. Obviously, Calvin Ridley. You already had Christian Kirk. You know about Travis Etienne. Now they just added Tank Bigsby. This is going to be one of the best offenses this year. Trevor Lawrence poised to have an even better year in year 3. Love Trevor Lawrence. And then number 7, Garrett Wilson. I talked about it in the video. I loved him with or without Aaron Rodgers, but now especially with Aaron Rodgers, you got to feel great about Garrett Wilson. No reason to be down on him. He's going to smash this year. And then number 8, I talked about Bijan Robinson in that video. I said he was a top 5 running back, but I'm going to actually talk about him again here because it turns out I was too low on Bijan Robinson. I said he was a top 5 running back in there. He's got all the tools, everything you look for in a running back. He has the vision. He has the cutting ability. He has the burst. He has the ability to break tackles, create yardage that isn't there. He's an incredible pass catcher. Not just a pass catcher like dump it off to him. I'm talking about 20 yards down the field, jumping up, making two-handed grabs over DBs like he's a wide receiver. Plus, he's not a liability in pass protection. He landed in the dream spot. I mean, I know people were like, oh, Cincy would be a dream spot, or the Chargers would be a dream spot. He was never going to get drafted by those teams. For the teams that could draft him, Atlanta was an absolute dream spot. They've got a great offensive line. They're going to run the entire offense through Bijan Robinson. 250 to 300 carries coming in this year. 50 plus receptions easily. 10 plus touchdowns. He is my RB1, meaning my number 1 running back in every single format. Dynasty, best ball, redraft, does not matter. He's my number one running back. So I had him in the last video. I said he's a top 5 running back. I'm putting him in this video too. He's a number 1 running back in all formats. All right, so if those are the 8 I'm keeping in, that means there's 2 I'm taking out. Who are they? Well, let's find out. I'm starting with Brandon Ayuk. And this one pains me because I really like Brandon Ayuk. I think he's a great player, and I think he's going to have a good season. But there's way too much risk here at the 49ers quarterback position to put Brandon Ayuk in a must-have, must-draft position. I still think he's a good draft pick. I think he'll still be a good fantasy player this year. But we're hearing talk that Brock Purdy may miss all or most of the season. And then we're hearing talk that it may not be Trey Lance. It might be Sam Darnold. I can't put a receiver who's going to be catching passes from Sam Darnold as a must-have player. So I've scratched Brandon Ayuk off the list, even though I still like him. But I've added a wide receiver that, looking back, I probably should have had before, and that is Chris Olave. Chris Olave last year was my number 1 rookie wide receiver. He did not disappoint. I know Garrett Wilson has all the hype right now, but Chris Olave, by almost every single metric, was either just as good or better than Garrett Wilson last year. And sure, he's not getting Aaron Rodgers this year, but he's getting Derek Carr. And we've seen Derek Carr, even though he's bad in real life, and he's bad if he's your fantasy QB, he's good for fantasy wide receivers. He will force feed Devontae Adams. He'll force feed whatever wide receivers are there. He can support Chris Olave as a top 12, maybe even a top 10 wide receiver this year. And he's routinely being drafted outside the top 15 wide receivers. In most leagues, he's probably going to be a late second, maybe even an early to mid third round pick. And to me, that's way too low. He should be much closer to Garrett Wilson than he is. So I'm putting Chris Olave on the list in place of Brandon Ayuk because Chris Olave will smash this year. And the other player I'm taking off is Jonathan Taylor. And it's not that I'm down on Jonathan Taylor because the Colts drafted Anthony Richardson. I really don't think this does much for Jonathan Taylor at all. I mean, he's not a guy that we're counting on to catch 60, 70 passes, so you don't have to worry about, running QB won't throw it to the running backs. That's not the issue here. Maybe there is some risk that Anthony Richardson takes goal line work, but Jonathan Taylor should still get plenty of goal line work, and the offense should just generally be better this year, and Jonathan Taylor and that offensive line should be better. I just don't know if he's quite on my must-have where, I have to get him all the time. I still think he'll be a top 5 running back. I still think he'll be very good. But there is a running back who I now think is somebody I'm going to have to get every chance I can, and that is Tony Pollard. And I was a little nervous about Tony Pollard coming out of last season. I know he had an incredible finish to the year. I mean, if you look at him from week 8 on last year, he scored over 14 PPR points in all but one game. He had over 20 PPR points in 5 games, over 30 PPR points in 2 games. He was an absolute monster. But there is some chatter that the Cowboys may draft a running back. Well, that didn't happen. At least not anyone that matters. They drafted Deuce Vaughn, who's 175 pounds. He is in no way, shape, or form any threat to Tony Pollard at all. Tony Pollard is locked in to potentially, 15 to 20 touches in this Cowboys offense. We saw what he did down the stretch when he was basically the guy and Zeke was taking a back seat. He's going to be the guy now. He is easily a top 10 running back this year, and that's probably being low. I think he legit has top 5 upside. Tony Pollard, a guy I'm going to be drafting everywhere. I feel like people haven't caught on. In our mock drafts, he's routinely going in the late second, sometimes even into the third. I'm taking him every chance I can there. All right, so that's 10, but I want to give you one more player since I'm not going over 10 guys in this video. Let's go with one more. I'm going to give you another running back who I think is going to absolutely smash this year, and that is Ramondre Stevenson. He was great last year, caught 69 passes, and there's no reason to think he can't catch even more this year because what have the Patriots done so far this offseason? Well, they let Jacoby Myers walk and they replaced him with Juju Smith-Schuster, who's not very good. They didn't really draft any wide receiver with high draft capital. I think the first wide receiver they took was in round 6. And they've also really bolstered this defense. They put an emphasis on drafting defense and strengthening this defense. It's really obvious that their game plan is going to be win with our defense and just run the ball and use our running backs and hide Mac Jones as much as we can. That's great for Ramondre Stevenson because Damian Harris is gone in free agency. They didn't draft any running back that will be a threat to Ramondre Stevenson. Ramondre Stevenson should absolutely be the guy here in a team that's going to have a good defense. It's going to put him in positive game script or at least close games where they continue to run the ball. He's going to get all the work. He's going to catch a ton of dump offs from Mac Jones. I think Ramondre Stevenson can be even better this year than he was last year. Another guy I'm going to be drafting everywhere I can. All right, so that's my updated list of 10, actually 11 players that I must draft in every league this year in 2023 if I can. But if you want to see my original list of 10 players, you can check it out right here.